I think we can get started now if everyone's ready. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name's Lauren. I work in marketing at Prosoft Technology, and we're really excited to have you for today's webinar. We're going to focus on modernization and how you can modernize without breaking the bank. Definitely timely topic for right now. Today we'll have presenting Scott Monton and Vic Perangelo from Prosoft Technology. And Vic, you can go ahead and take it away.
Okay, thanks, Lauren. Hello, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you, everybody, for joining. My name's Vic Perangelo. I'm the regional manager for the U.S. Northeast for Prosoft Technology. I'm based out of New York, and I also cover Eastern Canada and, in particular, Ontario. I'll be coming up on about 1 year now with Prosoft, but I've spent the past 30 years involved in automation in some manner or another. I started out basically as a system integrator working for Kodak up in Rochester, New York, and in that capacity, I was involved in building custom automation. And then after that, basically for the past 20 years, I've been in a field apps engineering capacity, pretty much solving problems with automation. So it's amazing how the technology has evolved over the years. With me is my partner in crime from the West Coast, Scott Monton.
Thank you, Vic. So again, just thank you for attending our migration webinar today. I think you'll find it interesting. I'm the Western Regional Account Manager at Prosoft. So I cover Western Canada and some of the Northwest states. Been at Prosoft now for 17 years, based a little north of Seattle. So only takes me about an hour to drive up to British Columbia there. So easy access to Canada. And I've been in this industry now for 30 years. So just to give you a little quick history about Prosoft, it was founded in 1988 by a gentleman named Doug Sherritt. And actually, Doug was a Canadian citizen. He was born there. After becoming, a teenage man, he moved with his family to the US. And after graduating from college, he went to work for Chevron down in California. And that's kind of how Prosoft started. Chevron wanted to get a lot of their Modbus data into a PLC2. So that's how everything kicked off. Little typical one man started the whole thing.
So that sort of leads into Prosoft's tagline is where automation connects. So if you look at this pyramid on the left-hand side, basically the basis of any IIoT strategy, IIoT being Industrial Internet of Things, the basis of any IIoT strategy is connectivity. So Prosoft fits in well with that. You'll see on the right-hand side, when it comes to connectivity, we have secure remote access. We actually did a webinar on that back in April, pretty detailed just on secure remote access. We have wireless solutions, but we also have legacy device migration, and that's what we're here to talk about today, AKA modernizing aging assets. So just a quick review of the agenda. This should probably take about 30 minutes or so. We're going to talk about why modernize, common legacy Rockwell protocols that would be involved in migration. The main thing here, though, is the tools that Prosoft has to offer in what we call phased modernization or phase-based modernization. We're also going to look at options for migrating some non-Rockwell systems to Rockwell. And we'll end off taking a quick look at the Prosoft website where there are a lot of tools and utilities you can use to help you out in this nature. So let's just start off with why modernize, right? What's driving the need for modernization? You could look at it on one end to the left, it could be reactive to modernization or proactive. So in reactive, we're talking about, legacy systems tend to operate in isolation. Outdated equipment is costly to run. You can't get spares. Parts are obsolete. Yeah, you could surf eBay. Maybe you can find what you're looking for, but do you have the tools and the expertise and the resources to maintain that equipment? It's costly.
Well, Vic, I like to take a proactive approach to things. So if I'm modernizing my control system, utilizing the latest technology, I end up increasing my overall productivity. I lower my operating costs, thus being more profitable. That seems like the way to go.
Makes sense, Scott. So let's take a look at what are we talking about here. So here's some legacy Rockwell product and protocols. I'm sure you recognize a lot of this. PLC 5s, SLICs, which by the way were launched I think in 1986. They have served you well. There are still many of these out there running in service, but they're dying out. What Scott, what do you do?
Well, it looks like Remote IO and DH Plus have been around for, boy, about as long as I have, 25 plus years. You know, and Rockwell's done a great job keeping them alive as long as they have. But, you know, now that they are no longer available, the time to upgrade is now. So you've got a couple options. You can, number one, replace the complete control system. That's a great way to go. You know, if you've got the budget, the time to do that. Some people still choose to do nothing, and I'm sure some distributors have gotten those midnight calls. Or I like to take a phased approach at it and implement a strategy that allows me to do that over time.
That's awesome, Scott. So let's take a look at a couple examples. Here I've got, on the top, I've got an old PLC 5 hooked up to an old 1336 drive. In the middle, it's hooked up to a PanelView Classic. And on the bottom, I've got some Flex IO with the Remote IO adapter, the obsolete adapter. So let's start with the drive. Basically, since the early 90s, AC drives have been used everywhere to save energy, speed matching of conveyors, load sharing. There are legacy drives in every nook and cranny of all different manufacturing facilities. They typically operate till they fail. The problem is many electrical departments are just not prepared for the inevitable. How do you prepare for the inevitable?
So Vic, in this example, you know, supporting legacy AV drives on Remote IO and converting them to new Ethernet enabled drives. So some of the key aspects of that is when we do it, we don't need to change the PLC code. We can support up to 4 Ethernet-based drives through one gateway. Configurable with quarter, half, and full rack addressing. And our support team has done a great job of creating sample templates that allow you to make the transition easier and more efficient.
That's awesome. So what if I want to do an old HMI? Let's say I want to convert some old panel views on Remote IO or DH Plus. I want to upgrade to PanelView Plus or PanelView 6 or 7. What do I do?
Well, this example allows legacy panel views on either Remote IO or DH Plus to be upgraded to Ethernet-based panel views. With one gateway, we can keep that PLC 5 or SLIC going and bridge to up to 8 panel views. Again, DH Plus to Ethernet IP with the gateway can be done on a PLC 5 or an SLC 500.
And in the same fashion, if I've got some old Flex IO with the discontinued Remote IO adapter?
That's correct. This example allows PLCs on Remote IO to connect to and control 1794 AENT Flex adapters. Again, it's designed to replace the old obsolete ASB adapter. We support literally 16 EIP connection. So if I've got a drop, much like you see here, full of discrete, each adapter counts as one connection. If I had analog modules, each one of those will consume a connection. So keep that in mind if you're doing this type of a conversion.
Okay, so we changed out the drive and the HMI and the I/O. What do we do if we want to change out the PLC? So
Well,
here's an example. Here we've got a SLIC hooked up to a bunch of remote I/O drops. So, and this is a very good example of phased migration. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to replace the PLC. So we bring in the compact logics with the modernization gateway. We're allowed to bring that in. So now we've got Ethernet IP to remote I/O. And then when time and money permits, maybe we'll add a switch, and then we'll maybe change out one of those remote I/O drops. And then again, when time and money permits, we can change out all of the remote I/O drops.
That was a great example of a phased migration using compact logics to control remote I/O drops. It allows you to do that while minimizing your downtime. In the final phase, you've replaced the remote drops of I/O with flex over Ethernet, and you've actually generated spares that can be used in other applications before upgrading them. We'll support up to 32 drops. We support all baud rates. And again, this will work with either compact or control logics.
Great, great. Let's look at another example. I tend to call this islands of automation. So here in a facility, I've got multiple separate isolated systems. In one case, I've got a nice new network that's Ethernet IP, and then somewhere in the back of the facility, there's some old DH Plus network, and it's still running, but it's isolated. What do we do here?
Well, in this example, the Annex 2 acts as a bridge between an Ethernet IP and a Data Highway Plus network. This gives us the ability to utilize one PC to download to a PLC5 or a SLIC on DH Plus, to compact or control logics, all visible through links. Again, we support all DH Plus baud rates, and recent upgrades to the Annex Gateway allow communications to be initiated from either the EIP or the DH Plus side.
So everything we've talked about so far, all the examples are using this product, the Modernization Gateway. It's designed to help you initiate phased migration. You just select the operating mode during the initial configuration for remote I/O or DH+, whether or not you're connected to an HMI, a drive, or I/O. It has a built-in web server to display diagnostic data, configuration. You can upload configuration files, and you could set the operation mode all in one.
Vic, are you telling me this one gateway can be configured to communicate with drives, HMIs, flex adapters, or even acting as a bridge between DH Plus and Ethernet IP? Seems like one part can do it all.
Yes, yes. And there's the part number. Bluehost to Ethernet IP, ANX2 ABDHRIO.
So if I had multiple applications in my facility, I could just reflash the gateway and move it around.
Yeah, you can use it to upgrade as, say, an HMI now, and then next year drive on some other network, right? Like you said, reflash it. So we talked about upgrading old Rockwell to new Rockwell. Well, how about, what if you have legacy non-Rockwell systems that you want to phase migrate to Rockwell? As Scott mentioned earlier, you could always rip it out and replace it, but what if you want to do that?
So, Vic, are you saying that the gateway can be used to talk to some other manufacturer's I/O?
Not the same part number, but it's the same concept. Yes, yes.
I like it.
So we'll show you a couple examples. We're not going to get too deep into it because the concept is the same as what you've seen before. say you've got an old Modicon S908, you can phase migrate this with the modernization gateway, bring in control logics, and phase out the Modicon.
You know, Vic, something we didn't mention is there's some additional functionality in the gateway that allows it to run in parallel with the original processor, scan the I/O drops, identify each module, and generate alias tags for you. So this can really reduce the amount of time that it takes to perform this phased migration. In the case of Modicon, not only will it work with an S908, but also the 984, the 584, and the quantum controller.
So we've got a couple more examples similar to this here. GE Genius. Phase it out, phase in.
Seen that a lot in steel mill applications, Vic.
Yeah, yeah. Texas Instruments 505. Again, phase in the control logics, phase out the Texas Instrument. Square D Cymax.
Uh-oh, Vic, this brings back some memories. This is the first PLC I ever learned to program.
Uh-oh. Legacy. Reliance Automax. We have that. We also have some in-chassis migration solutions. Here you see the Honeywell IPC. This is an in-chassis solution. Fisher Provox. And more Apex.
And Vic, we actually implemented this solution for Suncor in Grand Prairie a couple of years ago, and it's been working flawlessly.
Wow. So moving on to one more, Scott, how about DF1 migrations? I know there's a lot of old DF1 out there.
That's for sure. So when upgrading from DF1 based control systems to Ethernet based controls, Prosoft has two solutions. We have a routing gateway and a messaging gateway. And they can be used to replace older KF2 modules, Net E&I modules, and allow for connecting a logic-based controller to a PC utilizing the DF1 radio modem protocol.
So I'll show an example of that. So we have here a water wastewater example, an old SCADA system connected to old RTUs over leased line modems. So to do a phased migration of a network like this, step one would be to basically rip out the serial controllers, rip out the RTUs, replace them with a Logix platform like here, Compact Logix, and then bridge between the Ethernet IP and the DF1 using the gateway. That would be step one. Step two would be to upgrade the SCADA to an EIP system, but keep the network infrastructure intact. So you're still utilizing the lease line modems. And then finally, when you're able to and you're ready to, or your provider forces you to, you can start doing away with the lease line modems and go to a wireless or remote access connectivity.
Nice, Vic. It's a really great example of phased migration using our PLX51, irregardless of whether it's the routing or the messaging module. Again, we're making it easy for you to migrate towards an Ethernet-based control system.
And of course, in addition to our migration solutions, we have hundreds of in-chassis and gateway protocol converters.
Well, Vic, what about our great technical resources? You know, such as our website and documentation. Our how-to videos are great because they really make it easy to connect up some of our products. and some of our other forms of support, such as chat.
So I'm going to give you a very quick tutorial of the Prosoft website. I'm hoping, Scott, you can see that right now.
Looks great.
So one of the things, as I mentioned, with hundreds of in-chassis and gateway protocol converters, we have a product selector, which makes your life easy, because if you can see what I'm doing here, I'm hovering over the word products. And let's say for this example, I'm just going to go down and pick gateways. And then you see over here on the left, there's a product selector where you basically go in and you mention, I want to go from protocol 1 to protocol 2. So let's say in this example, I'm just going to pick DH+, because that's the one we were showing. And look at that, voila. It popped up with the ANX2 AB DHRIO.
So irregardless of whether it's a gateway, an in-chassis solution, it's simple to manipulate around the website.
Yes, and then, so now once we've picked the product that we want in the gateway here, Scott, you mentioned how-to videos. There are a ton of videos on here, how to set up and configure your gateways.
You know, Vic, I used one of the videos to help a customer initiate communications between a ControlLogix chassis and a quantum controller. I'd never done it before, and we just ran the video and we had it up and running in about a half hour.
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of tutorials on here. Also on this downloads tab, this is where you'll find AOIs, AOPs, drawings.
You know, Vic, we actually used one of the AOIs in conjunction with the video to get the gateway up and running. But I noticed you guys we even conformal code as an option.
Yes, I believe some, not all. Yes. So that's pretty much it. If I can switch the screens back here, I apologize. So we've run through all of that. I guess at this point, I haven't looked to see, Lauren, have there been questions on the Q&A and if they've been answered or not?
We haven't seen any come in, so just as a reminder, everyone, if you do have questions, you can go ahead and put that into the Q&A box. You'll see at the bottom of your screen. And otherwise, of course, we'll have time at the end of, now that we're at the end of the webinar, if you have any, feel free to let us know.
And we're going to send this out, Lauren, is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
Well, thanks, Scott.
Thank you. So just remember, you can rip it all out, do it in one shot. You can do your migration in a phased approach or wait till the midnight bell hits. Ah.
We just got a question here. So where is ControlNet on the obsolete radar?
At this point, we haven't done anything with ControlNet, but we can check. Maybe Chris, you may know of something? Yeah, we haven't done anything with ControlNet as of yet.
Hey.
You're correct. It is starting to
Hey, Scott.
long in years. So go ahead.
Hey, Scott. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Hey, sorry about that. My phone was on mute.
Okay.
No, actually, that's a good question. Within the next month or couple of months, we're actually taking over some products from a company called Aparian, and they actually have a ControlNet gateway. And so we're going to be taking that over. So it'll support ControlNet, it'll support redundant ControlNet, it's going to support a bunch of different things. We'll be coming out with more information shortly, but yeah, you'll be able to program your processors over ControlNet. Yeah, a bunch of different things. So yeah, we'll come out with some documentation on that.
Chris, thanks. Any additional details on that? You know, what, a little bit about functionality, not getting in too deep, but
Not now, only because the seminar I was just in before this one was that one.
fantastic. That's good to hear.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll be coming out with some information probably within the next couple of weeks.
So it doesn't look like we've had any more questions. Of course, feel free if you think of any after the webinar to go ahead and contact Scott or Vic. Their information is right up here. Um, I think that's everything. And thank you guys so much for attending. We hope everyone found this helpful.